The hour being 7:02, I call the meeting of the Westwood Library Board of Trustees to order. Other than our recording for Westwood Media, does anybody have any other devices, recording devices? No? Okay, good. So we're going to move to our first item on the agenda, which is our annual reorganization of the board.
We lost Paul. Which?
Oh, hold on. Let me put him. He went back to an attendee. I swear I didn't touch that. I didn't knock him off that fast from a position.
There he is.
There he's back.
And he's muted. Paul, you'll need to unmute yourself.
There he is. Whoop.
Just not getting his video. There he is.
Hold on.
Okay.
I would move that I nominate for Chair of the Library Board of Trustees for the year 2022 to 2023, Maureen Van Aal.
I'll second that.
Do I say all in favor?
Call the vote. Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Yeah. I think you need to call a roll.
Sorry.
Call
Okay.
a roll vote.
So Trustee Masi-Phelps,
Aye.
Trustee Ryan,
Aye.
Trustee Persons,
Aye.
Trustee Donahue,
Aye.
Trustee Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Trustee Vanu.
Aye.
I don't know what to do there. And the board votes in favor. So welcome our new chair, Maureen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I also move that Trustee Mary Masi-Phelps be chosen as the secretary to the board.
I'll second that.
Are you already taking the notes for that? Did you get that, Maureen?
Yeah, I
Second that?
am.
Okay, good.
I am.
Okay.
Fitzgerald on you.
Yes, got it. Okay, so Trustee Masi-Phelps,
Aye.
aye. Trustee Ryan,
Aye.
the screen keeps moving. Trustee Persons,
Aye.
Trustee Donahue,
Aye.
Trustee Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Trustee Vanu,
Aye.
and the board votes aye. So thank you, Mary, for being our secretary and taking that down. Or is it clerk? I don't know what the official title is.
Yeah, clerk or secretary. Either way, I'm taking notes.
Good, okay, great. Okay, I think the floor is yours now, Madam Chair.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda for this evening is approval of the minutes from April 11th, 2022. Has everyone had a chance to read them over? There was a second, we got them twice.
Yep.
First time, and everyone got the second one, I hope.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Anyone like to make a motion to accept the minutes? Mary, Trustee Persons?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second it.
Okay. Seconded by Trustee Ryan. Okay, we'll take a roll call vote on that. Trustee Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Trustee Persons,
Aye.
Trustee Ryan,
Aye.
Trustee Donahue,
Aye.
Trustee Masi-Phelps,
Aye.
and the chair says aye. Well, that was easy.
I think we've got the roll down.
Thanks for the good example, Paul. Okay, the next is the director's report tonight. And Lizzie, are there some things that you'd like to point out? in
I
the report?
would. I know it wasn't
Very
too long.
colorful. No, the pictures were great.
Yeah, it was a busy month. It was April vacation, so we had a lot going on. It was again, I had been saying that, increasing, I've been seeing a lot more people in the building, but vacation week is never, it's always where there's just families and kids there every day. And so we had a great Harry Potter night. We had missed a year due to the pandemic, and we normally do it in February. So during April, we were didn't know how it was going to go. We have over 100 people attend, all dressed up, and parents couldn't stop thanking us enough for having it, bring it back. And we decorated the whole children's department and brought it to life. So it was a really positive feeling all around. And it was great to see the kids all excited and back and together and keeping it going. So that was awesome. And then the same week, what we highlighted is our first April vacation program at Wentworth Hall at the Islington branch in the lower level. We were able to hold we love to bring in live animals, educational topics. And we brought in reptile adventures, I think. So if you're a phobia of snakes, you did not want to be around there. So we had over 60 people visit the Islington branch for that program. And, they talked about, forests and nature, and brought in real animals to show the kids that they got to come up and hold some of them. So that was really an exciting program. Again, getting back to bringing people into both locations. It was really successful. For the adults, we have a lot of exciting things. Susie, I was going to say later on in my branch update, but Susie had another great program of what we had originally. It was created as Bloom Zooms because we were doing them on Zoom and giving away the kits of everything you'd need to, whether it was potting something or flower arranging. And now that we're doing them in person and people like being together and socializing and doing this hands-on project, it's part of our Living Library series. So that is something that Susie has created from the ground up. We have a seed library now on the second floor and real actual plants that are loving the heat of the second floor and bursting with greenery. So, and eventually when some of those plants, I don't have on top of my head which ones they are that are actually like a spider plant that can actually grow a spider baby, we could have plants that patrons will be able to take home and check out. And if they grow, they can always bring those babies back. And it's actually a circular library. There's a new under services on the Westwood Library website, you can click and it tells you all about the Living Library and what programs. So as well, our programs are folded under that, as well as some new gardening kits that we're going to add to our library of things. So you'll get this little apron that will have everything you need to start your own garden. So those are not yet out, but there's plans. So we have all the things, we just need to package them correctly. So that's exciting. That's happening with the adult programming this summer. And the other thing I want to point out in my report for facilities, we ordered a new chiller many months ago, but has anybody been waiting for anything, there is a delay in getting the new one installed until August. So we will have a chiller, but we're going to have to rent for June and July as we did last summer. But I will say that renting the one we did last summer was actually the summer we had the most AC. So we have a plan in place. So that will be delivered and installed the first couple days of June. And then there'll be a changeover in the beginning of August with the new one. So it was out of our hands, but I was happy that the facilities in the town made a quick motion to get us air conditioning in some format as we had to deal with the delays of their product. And then as town meeting, our budget passed, yay. And part of the facilities budget was doing planned paving and curbing of the library parking lot. And there's some unsettling that we need a book schedule. So I don't have when that will be, but Jimmy McCarthy, the director of facilities, has assured me that he will try to schedule it so there'll be the least interruption. So if it's a weekend in the summer, we might be closed. We're normally open 10 to 1. So maybe it would be a Saturday start, over, and we're not open Sunday. So trying to limit the library being closed as much as possible. But I wanted to let you all know that will be coming down. We have to have a notice so that the community knows well in advance when that will be. And maybe opening the branch on a day so that people can pick up holds or something like that. So I don't have a date when that is, but I wanted to, now that we got the approval for that work, it will be coming up. So those are some things that from the report that I wanted to make sure that you're highlighted.
Trustee Persons?
Lizzie, excuse me, I remember when I was reading the warrant that there were several things that were beneficial to the library if the budget got passed. Can you review again what was in the budget in the warrant that pertained to the library? I think there was some like technology, some checkout stations or.
So one of the items was our patron staff and user technology. And part of that is it upgrades all of our computers in the building for the ones that the public uses, as well as if we order new laptops that can be checked out, any items like that that we add to as things advance and we need to replace, whether it's iPads, things like that, we get that. So we have usually a schedule in place of what actually needs to be replaced, and then any additional, things that were like, no one's using that anymore, we need to now shift to something like that, whether it's MacBooks. So we have that passed for 15,000, and then the sound dampening project, which I put in connection with Jimmy McCarthy on steps to, we don't know what that will look like yet, but bringing in someone to help us figure out whether something like ceiling sound panels in walls or closing off the teen space, and really kind of evaluating whether or not that is always a teen space. That atrium is just any voices in the gallery carry. So just having an acoustical engineer come in and really look at it and to see what's the best way to benefit the multi-use of that space. So that sound dampening project went through. My other thing I'm really excited about was mobile shelving units. So I put that in as one of the things that we realized coming out of the pandemic, the flexibility to create different spaces when we did express browsing. Thankfully, we had put some of the older branch shelves on wheels, and we had them at the main library. And that was how we, did the community room checkouts, small stations, and then in the gallery. And then we've continued to use them on the second floor to kind of pull out certain collections and highlight them. And when I get further down to talk about some of the data that has come out from the survey and from researching, I think it's going to come in handy even more so of how do we make the space modular and flexible as even seasons change in different times of year. So the mobile shelving units came in, and then our first bump of the first stage of getting a bookmobile came through as well. So we got 30,000 to put towards rehabbing one of the COA's vehicles that they're going to be starting to shift out as they got a new vehicle that passed for last year. So those are all of the warrant articles that went through. So that is very exciting. And then the parking lot paving one was actually under the facilities, but that was the one that concerned the library as well.
Thank you. That's fantastic.
And when you do, yeah, very good. And when you have to close for the paving, it will be nice to have the option to open Islington,
Yeah. So
So
if we could close on a Saturday, maybe we can open there so people can still pick up their holds and, have a place to go in the summer.
I
think it would-
I'm sorry, Mary. Go
Sorry, I
ahead.
was just gonna say, I think that would be a great opportunity to have the branch open on the weekend sometime.
Yeah,
That'd
exactly.
be nice.
yeah.
Do you also know if we'll have to close when the chiller converts over both times?
I don't think so, not unless the heat has impacted so much that on the second floor that it's unsafe. But if we can we do have some portable AC units that we used last year as in the interim when we didn't know what was happening, that to try to keep it cool. But usually it's just a day or two as they bring it in, and it will take up those few parking spaces on the backside of the children's department, like the children's garden is outside the chiller. But it's worth it too for people to be able to come in and cool off in the summer.
Yeah.
So, and if we get the other one earlier, great, but it will probably be like a day or two. So I don't think we'll have to close unless it's really untenable inside.
Okay.
That's great. Okay, I'm going to just back up a minute. I was remiss in not extending a welcome to Nancy Donahue, our new trustee. I apologize.
Welcome,
Thank you.
Nancy.
I was caught up with the chairperson thing. So
You
we
too.
welcome you, and very glad to have you. And chime in if you have questions, on anything that you might not have been aware of as we move along tonight.
Yeah,
Although
I'm
we'll
happy
try
to slow down and explain anything, 'cause sometimes I'm going, so happy to.
Okay, is anything else on your report? Or do you want to move to staffing at this point?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just we might want to know for the benefit of our new trustee, Donahue, and anybody that's listening, that the library director's report is accepted as submitted, and it's our usual practice at meetings to let Lizzie highlight some parts of it, but there is a full report that's part of the record of the meeting now.
Okay. Lizzie, shall we move on to staffing?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have a couple of things I wanted to note of staffing. We have 2 staff recognitions. Usually, the town and the library, we do the first 5-year, 10-year, 15 years. And Trisha London has been at the library for 25 years. So Trisha London works Monday nights usually and weekends as they come up. And she's a full-time school librarian. And so we have benefited from Trisha's expertise with tech help. So she's been for a long time, even during different staffing transitions. Monday night tech help was our go-to for many patrons who've got to utilize her expertise over the years. And she is a dedicated reader of YA books. So even, with our teen materials, she's been an asset in helping us. Have you read this, or we have to get this, using her school librarian guru. But the last, I want to say 2.5 years, she has been our main person who has taken on the role of our Philbrick collection and making sure, so they're local artists that are, yes, they're Margaret and Otis Philbrick were local residents of Westwood. And we have this beautiful, renowned Philbrick collection that people have reached out to us and will call and say, are these here? Which ones are there? Can I come look at them? And unfortunately, in the past, we've had them either in, staffing areas on the wall or it boxed up. And so we have decided, and this has been in other trustee meetings, the trustees have supported us pulling them out and cataloging them and making sure that they are in the right condition and being safely displayed across the library. But she went the extra mile and even made, each painting has its own like Google sheet that has all the history on that painting, what the subject is, the condition, and all this background. So now that the custodians and the facilities have been, systematically, there's a lot of them, putting them up. And I think in my director's report, I showed some pictures, have been putting them up along the library. Now just visiting the space, it's like a walk-in art museum. So you can take your phone out or a tablet and scan the QR code and the page will come up that's on the painting that you're looking at and give you background information. It is a lot of work, a lot of dedication, and she showed a lot of passion for it. And I think even 2 or 3 of them that we had sent out to get repaired and reframed, Trisha did a lot of the legwork researching which places to getting 3 different quotes. I mean, she did a lot of work. And so we're really proud of her. And the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners had sent out an email to libraries this summer that they wanted to do this road trip website. So if you were visiting Massachusetts, or, what is something at your library that would be a destination? We have many reasons for people to want to visit us, but we thought it was fair to highlight this very unique, specific local collection. So Abby Walsh, the head of adult services, had submitted that, and that's all thanks to Trisha. So we do have a lib guide. So it's like a research guide that has an overview of the collection too, that's on our website. So thank you to Trisha and her 25 years at the library. And then the other recognition is for Allie Palmgren. So Allie is celebrating 5 years working at the library. She has been a substitute reference librarian. So she works weekends and has filled in as needed. She's even filled in the children's department over the years where we were prepping for Harry Potter night. She was the technology librarian in Norwood is when she first started, and now is the assistant director in Weston, and it has still picked up shifts and helped out Westwood. And I have to say that last year when I was interim director, I leaned on Allie very heavily to help me navigate, a new software and, asking her expertise and things. And she's always willing to lend a helping hand. So we're happy that Allie has stuck around and lent us her talents as needed while she's very busy. So those are 2 staff recognitions that I wanted to highlight for you all. And the other thing on my staffing was Abby Walsh it's been over a year. She was a year with us as the head of adult services in March. I think it was a year. And as our personnel policy indicates that she could begin to accrue 4 weeks vacation with the permission of the Board of Trustees. So I would like to put that forth, that request, that permission before I go to the personnel board, that I have your approval of moving that forward. Abby has been instrumental in helping us reopen the 2nd floor safely during last year. She started in March and we were immediately getting, independent study spaces, which was really important at the time, up and running, and then helping, develop this whole new programming regimen with Susie and making sure things were safe and getting things rolling. So into a whole new library during a pandemic, it's been phenomenal to see the great changes. And every day as I throw a new, what about this database? You know, Abby's right on it. It's like, okay, let's research and see how it works. The other thing that she brought to our website is the Niche Academy. So now when you go to our website, there's like a little tab on the side that you can click, and it has how-to videos on how to access Ancestry, how to, you know, use Libby, all of these things. And she was also instrumental in helping us evolve our digital presence to be able to serve our community, whether or not we ever have to close again, hopefully not. So anyways, that is one of the things that I do need to get your approval, and I don't know how that actually goes. Oh, Paul, do you know?
Madam Chair,
Shall we seek a?
I move that this board authorize Elizabeth McGovern to approach the Personnel Board consistent with the relevant rules and regulations and personnel bylaws relative to Abby Walsh.
Thank you. And a second? Mary Beth Persons. Thank you, Mary Beth. Any discussion? Not hearing any. Shall we take a vote? Trustee Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Trustee Ryan. She nodded.
I said aye. Excuse me.
Trustee Person,
Aye.
Trustee Donahue,
Aye.
Trustee Masi-Phelps,
Aye.
and the chair says aye.
So,
Thank you, Lizzie.
thank you.
That's great. Okay, next on our agenda is the Islington Branch Library. Anything new to report?
We're still trying to get the word out that the library is open. We've heard some feedback, which will come up again when I go over our data, that some people still don't know it's open. So we're just working hard on, you know, still putting it out in different, the wire, different social media things. And we're already, you know, brainstorming different program ideas that would actually not just attract people inside, but one idea that's being floated around by a couple staff members is doing a plant swap and doing it out front of the library, of the Islington Branch Library, and doing something out there that would attract, you know, like visual, oh, something's happening there. So that's one thing. So as I said earlier, Susie did one of her living library programs at the Wentworth Hall lower level this month, a couple weeks ago on Wednesday evening, and Seedlings 101, and it had 20, we usually do to limit to 20, very enthusiastic participants. They were all very excited, some great pictures, and it was great to bring people back. And we're gonna do another one is planned for June. That's going to be herb gardening, herb container gardening. So that one is funded through the local cultural grant. So thank you, Maria, and that group. So I think it's just, again, just keep reminding and putting out there in any way we can that the branch is open and ready for people to rediscover it. So that's the update I have.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
would
trustee?
it be worthwhile for us to maybe get a banner that says we're open, come in and explore?
That
And
sounds
to
like a good idea.
authorize Lizzie to use the Mass Library funds to purchase, to get such a banner. If
I
it would,
love that.
people think it would be help, you know, something we might want to do. We're
Yeah.
open, come in and explore or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it is a heavy traffic area, so people are slowing down there for the light and so forth. That might be, you know, really
Yeah.
good.
So I move that we authorize Lizzie if she to obtain a banner and to use the library, Massachusetts library funds.
Great. Okay.
Second.
Awesome.
A second.
Trustee Persons seconds that, and we'll take a vote. Trustee Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Trustee Ryan,
Aye.
Trustee Persons,
Aye.
Trustee Donahue,
Aye.
Trustee Masi-Phelps,
Aye.
and the chair agrees. Aye. So that sounds great. Thank you for your suggestion, Trustee Fitzgerald. Okay, anything else on that, Lizzie?
No, thank you. I'm
Okay.
excited.
The next thing on our agenda is the strategic plan update. And I just wanted to take a minute at the beginning of this discussion to maybe bring us up to date a little bit. As you recall, we have chosen a research-based strategy process so that our plan will be very grounded in facts and research. Yes,
Madam
Lizzie?
Chair, sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you wanted to discuss the naming policy first. I know we talked a little
Okay,
bit at the
you know
steering
what? I
committee,
went right
if you
down and we
wanted
did
to.
talk about, yeah, that's fine. So
Okay,
never mind.
stay tuned.
Yeah, so we'll move to item 7, discussing the proposed naming policy, and then we'll come back to the strategic plan update.
Okay.
So I think that, you know, we thought perhaps we might need a little more discussion on this. And I was able to share the plan, the policy with Tina Bronkhurst for the Friends. And she did send me some, you know, highlights for questions. And, you know, I think the gist of it is, she thought it was great, but the gist of it for her was looking at some of the things, for example, the list of commemorative gift opportunities and their costs, creating the agreement, the written agreement between the library and the donor, and the number of years, for example, those things, who would be developing that? And would that be done as in sort of ongoing living kind of, you know, policy that might need adjustment from time to time? Or would that be something that's done as we are developing and approving the policy? She also said she thought that, you know, it sounded really good that it would sit, this kind of organization of it would sit with the trustees as appropriate. And her other question, she had one other, in terms of the, they have started a high school, you know, sorry, word finding problem. A
Scholarship.
scholarship. So it's for Carol Blumenthal right now. I don't think it's in perpetuity at this point, but her question was, would their doing that, would this, you know, have any connection to that or impinge on their doing that as just the Friends? My quick answer was no, but I said that I would bring it to the board. Trustee Fitzgerald?
I agree. I don't think that our naming policy, the naming policy relates to the library buildings and the collections and things within the buildings. Anybody could start a scholarship and call it anything they would like. So I don't think that our naming policy would.
Okay. So I will reassure her about that.
Since it's not something in the library or the library facility or
Right.
property.
Right.
And as far as her other, are those just questions she had?
Well, yes, and
What did I say?
actually I went through it again too, and they're kind of reasonable questions, I think, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
then we could do two things. The short answer would, in my view, would be that the policy is a living document and it evolves as circumstances change and we confront issues that we hadn't confronted before. Number one. Number two, interpretation of the policy. The Board of Trustees is the policy-making body. So what would happen is, I think Lizzie or whoever the library director is would come to us and ask us to, and you know, what our policy view is, and if we needed to change or amend or revise the policy, would do so. But having said that, I don't think there's anything wrong with us looking at the comments and meeting or preparing a meeting with them and giving them an actual response to the questions or concerns she raised. But ultimately, interpretation of the policy is this board's in conjunction with the library director.
Which I think that, you know, from my conversation with her, she'll be comfortable with. I think they were just.
So we may want to
questions
just
about
put it
where they
over.
want. Yeah.
Put it over for a month and
Yeah.
it means
I
to.
think so.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
And so would you be responding, or how do you want, how would we do that? Do you want to do it written? Do you want to have Lizzie or sort of give in writing what address their concerns, or we could have them invite them to the next meeting. Either way.
So either way, she did send me an email, so I could respond to that with, I know that Mary Beth
Yeah.
and Mary worked on this, so.
Mhm.
Be happy to work with you on that, Maureen, and
Yeah.
either one of us, we can reply,
Yeah.
on behalf of the board.
Okay, that
So I
sounds,
would move then that we table discussion of it till our next meeting.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, anything else regarding that? Okay, all right, so now we can go back to the strategic plan.
Thank you.
Update. So as I started to say, and you may recall, and of course, for the benefit of our new trustee, we chose a research-based strategy process. And that was really so that our 3-year strategy will be based on facts and research. The library staff has been really very involved in the research. They've been working on research for about 4 months in 4 cross-functional teams to conduct focus groups, community survey, study and visit libraries, and a variety of other things. Also, this is the first time the library has done a comprehensive analysis of the software to study patterns of data and what it reveals about the library usage, particularly during the pandemic. So that has provided a good amount of data. As we've shared in prior meetings, Nancy, even though this is a voluntary thing for the staff, every member has chosen to be involved. Some of them have signed up for multiple teams, and their level of involvement has been really important since they will ultimately be implementing the strategy. So all the research is now complete, and our strategic plan subcommittee had a meeting on Friday. And so the library research across all 4 teams, including the 1,500 survey responses that were received, which is 9% of the town's residents and 5 times the last survey that the library did in 2016. This shows people really care about the library's future. And as you saw in Lizzie's note, today is about highlighting some of the findings from all of this research. And there's a lot, but we'll be sharing the highlights, and that should give you a good basis for understanding where we're going. So before I turn it over to Lizzie, want to put up there's a schedule for the next 2 months so that you can see where we are and where we're going.
Let me
Just
grab
kind of
that.
get the big picture for where we're going from now on. And you can see that the staff meeting's complete, the library visits are complete, and we're moving towards strategic partner meetings, which should be finished by the 20th of this month. Then some synthesis by Lizzie and the leadership team, and then sharing the plan, which we're hoping to have that for June 6th, which is before our next meeting, and then a period for comments from the 6th to the 7th, and then a finalization and a Board of Trustee approval somewhere between June 20th and June 30th, and actual implementation beginning between July and September. So Lizzie, now I'll turn it over to you to share some of the findings
Yeah.
that the library staff found exciting.
Yes, so as I said, I realized that there's a lot of pages to go over. So that's why I said, please read it at your leisure. But this executive summary page just kind of grabs the things that kind of rose to the top that really stuck out to us as, as something worth noting. Some things that were really surprising, that I had thought for sure it was going to go this way. And this is why it's so important to base any, future planning for the library and for anything on the actual data and research from the community, their words, their actions, all of that, because, I've worked in Westwood for over 10 years and I've been here and I was like, I know this community. And then I'm like, oh, or and you read these things of like, oh, libraries are now flexing this way. And yet, something right off the top, work from home or working from home is working from home. Not a lot of working adults really want to set up shop in the library, whether it's because they need secure Wi-Fi or they finally built their home office to a comfortable level of how they can work. So as much as we see a lot of still studying, I see a lot of studying, studying for tests, a lot of that is happening in the library. Maybe some Zoom calls here and there, interviews, things like that are definitely happening, but not that, digging in that I thought we would be, doing that for. So that is just off the top of my head is I think I've mentioned it to you over the last year and here's some feedback and some data that was, no, that's not really what we want from the library. So it just made me really excited that and happy that we did it this way. And thank you, Maureen, for highlighting all the effort that the staff put in, because even though I sent out about 9 pages of detailed, there's a lot more. This was Cece's here in the meeting today, and Nancy, she's our strategic planning consultant and partner who helped, who's been helping us this year with this project. And there was a lot more. We were cutting it down as of Friday morning to be like, this is a lot to overwhelming to share. So the staff did a lot of pulling and work, and down to the survey, we had so many staff members thinking outside the box ways to connect with the community and really get it out there, aside from putting it on social media, whether it was searching other local Westwood Facebook pages and making sure we're resending it there, sending it to every community member that we know that has, their own group, whether it's PTOs. So it was in waves, really working together on the advertising of it, if you will. So every person, whether it was cultivating and narrowing down the survey, so it was very specific, to promoting it, everybody had their hand in it. So I thank them because it was all them, not me. And I'm really proud of the survey. The other parts to these 3 groups that was interesting is that this tripod I think of, the community survey is obviously like, the bread and butter. But even that, we were first draft, we had so many questions that, Cece would say, well, wait a minute, can we answer that with data? Like if we want to know how much something is being used, are we asking them, or can we not know based on checkouts? So it was really a clean, succinct survey. I think I'm really proud that we got it down to 5 or 6 minutes to take it, because in this world, that's as fast as people will take on something like this. But really making sure that we could support it with things that we already had access to in terms of statistics and tracking. And then the focus groups really were something we knew we wanted to do from the beginning and we'd never done before, because as much as you can get a lot of information from community surveys, they don't tell us the why. And having these conversations of how does the library fit into your life, and tell me in your own words, was so important. And it was interesting to see how it complemented a lot of the stuff we saw from the community survey, but certain things gave us more insight and detail to how that works. So, for example, in the community survey, we saw that a lot of people were excited about or thought was important expanding a library of things collection. And then in the focus groups, certain aspects of that, either they didn't know we had, Wi-Fi hotspots or library of things, and be interested in more of that. So certain things really connected and reaffirmed it, but gave us a little bit more insight. So, I'm just going to go over a few things that popped out at me. And under the community survey, as I said in the top, they really want an expanded library of things. And one of the first questions I think we ask is, what do you see the library, what's their place? What's the place for the library? And these are just the top 3. We had a lot more options, but, lifelong learning came up, improving quality of life, which I loved, and then opening my minds to new concepts, fresh ideas, and information. And that will go into helping us with our vision statement and our mission statement. For the Islington branch, we had asked one specific question about what people's interests were in a different role for the Islington branch. And the top 3 were Creativity Center, Community Center, and Readers Advisory Center. So that was surprising. I honestly didn't know. And, there was a lot of feedback, but all positive. So we have different directions we can go. We can go there. There's also hands-on programs came out. And again, we've seen that from the pandemic of things of how successful Susie's Living Library programs are. People want hands-on programs. They want to come in, they want to do something when they want to socialize, they want to learn something, not just from listening, but doing. So that came about in the survey and the focus groups. The other thing that came out in the surveys, we asked about spaces, and the top 2% of spaces, up to 60%, these two options were the most demand. The highest demand was for cozy reading spaces, so more comfortable seating in the library, and outdoor spaces to relax, read, and gather. So that was exciting because I was like, there's some potential that we could do something there. But that was the most demand for spaces. In terms of items, which we had seen in our statistics that, use of physical books on CD and physical DVDs had gone down as people during the pandemic were kind of forced to go to streaming, digital downloads. And most people have either stayed with it or now they're comfortable using that. So from our circulation statistics, we could tell that those numbers have gone down. And then in the survey, we did kind of ask again, what's your most important material or item that you want from the library? And books were one of them, but not just books, a diverse and interesting collection of books, which was very intriguing. And then one of the things that's not important at all were books, CDs, DVDs, and books on CD. And that's always been interesting because audiobooks as a format have actually risen over the past 5 years, but it's still through your app of your phone, through Hoopla or through Libby and digital, as people can just have their phone and go on a walk and listen. That's been more popular. So certain things were validating and certain things were surprising. In terms of programs, they want concerts and indoor and outdoor activities, again, the hands-on ones, and then civic events. Meet the candidates, voter forums, using the library as a way to connect as a community came up. And, we listed lots of others and I could go on and on, but, we did have the children's department has STEM kits that we have got through a local Foundation for Westwood Education grant, and those are out all the time. So I definitely think seeing again and again that the expanded library things is in for all ages is coming across the board. For focus groups, we decided we had so many people we wanted to talk to, but we really tried to narrow it down on, the most either non-users, light users, and people that we really wanted to make sure that they found, had their insight in the library and as their home library. So we did a focus group session for men, Chinese residents, that's the most growing population for Westwood newcomers, and then the non and light users. And I think we actually ended up doing 2 different groups for the newcomers. So we ended up doing 5 different Zooms, and I think we had over 25 participants across the board who gave us their time for an hour and were happy and enthusiastic to talk to our staff and CC. So it was really wonderful results that came from that. So off the top, men are kind of off. They couldn't think of one library program off the top of their head that they would that they had gone to, but they had, there's a perception of the library or book group specifically are for women. And I think it's something that bubbled up in the conversation, but that's not to say they wouldn't want to join a book group, but they also, so one idea was would we have a book group that, meets at a restaurant and University Station and Books and Brews? Because food and drink came up across the board, whether it was a survey or focus groups, the whole idea of social and using the library as a gathering space, people like food and drink. So that was one thing, and highlighting activities and services that the library provides for non-readers, because I do think there's this antiquated idea of the library's only books, and we have so much more to offer. So that's definitely encouraging us to think more about how we position and promote all the services, that it's, that it's not just reading in the traditional sense. So that came up. The other surprising thing, as I said, the work from home, they were not interested in the library for that, but they were interested in, because more people, as men particularly, are working from home, they have more flexibility to be involved with taking the kids to the library and taking them out and getting them involved. So they did show an interest to family activities, and even maybe, specific to father-child, programs at the library on the weekends, and really wanted to see the library that have an active role with their kids at the library. So that came up with the men's group. The newcomers group, they like the idea of the library as a community center, especially a way to connect, to meet new people in town as newcomers. So something like an idea for a newcomer group, something like quarterly that we would have at the library, was really interesting to them as a way to meet, new neighbors and hear all about what Westwood's about. They really like the idea of, again, for adult programs, interactive, something how-to, hands-on. That was the same for the men. They wanted like how to, fix things, videos, that type of stuff at the library as well. And they, most of the newcomers didn't know about children's programs, but they were really excited that we had things like library, like STEM kits for kids, and wanted more of that. They also mentioned for new services an expanded library of things. For Islington, they mentioned that we need to promote it more because they did not know that it was open. And main library, they said that they appreciate the warm, welcoming feel of the library, the airy space, the good light, and the friendly staff. So those are those two groups. The Chinese residents, they attend a lot of our programs for kids, but did not or weren't aware of any of programs for adults. They definitely are interested in having a stronger or at all adult collection in Mandarin and other languages. And English as a second language classes. There's definitely multi-generational family members that would benefit from English language circles and things like that. And they expressed they also would love like a Meet My Neighbors community programming at the library. And one thing of really to note is one participant mentioned, they said resources that could be offered at the library, both for victims of hate and also to educate the community about recognizing and overcoming hate. And it was interesting and nice to see that, thinking of the library again as a way to connect to the community and really strengthen bonds is how I took that. And that the library could almost be a comfortable space to do that was a really great insight for us. And then the last group, non and light users, they had reasons for not using the library anymore is children's kind of getting older and shifting out of the use of the library, which is one thing I think we had identified before. Or, their kids are using their school library now since coming back to school, and they're not, everyone's kind of off their routine since the pandemic. So COVID concerns came up. One person said, streaming services aren't friendly enough, user friendly. So those are some reasons of low use. And I still think there's a heart of coming out of their shell back to normal, I should say. And so really wanted our programs to still be recorded and have that virtual option for things. But they are excited or interested in movie nights, cultural experiences, foreign language books, and again, hands-on instructional experiences. And food and drink was another big one. I think one person said they would pay a cleanup fee to have food and beverages at their gatherings. But one thing that came across all of these things were that people don't know quote unquote rules of the library. So it may not even know to ask. So one thing that came up in the survey is that people had less use for the meeting room. Like if we set a room for 5 to 25 people to book, they said, oh, that's not important. But I sometimes think that people don't even know that we have meeting rooms that, oh, if you have a group in town, you can book this, So there's definitely a lack of knowledge of how the library operates and what you can and cannot do, and might not even ask. So that's definitely something for us to think about of how to position even that kind of not basic, but the do's and don'ts, if you will, of the library and what's available to them to use as residents. And then the last one, data and analytics, there's probably too much to go over here. So I'll just try my best to pull things. Things we have seen that we've been highlighting since I've been meeting with you all is digital services are significantly up from pre-pandemic. So Canopy, Overdrive, Hoopla. We know that those are have reached incrementally from, pre-pandemic. Museum passes, we were thinking a lot about the use of those because the usage has been down, but a lot of the museums have had, been closed for a while, or when they came back, they had funky rules. So, but before that, we had a total of, 8 passes almost account for 80% of the checkouts. So we're in the process of kind of looking through all of the museum passes that we have, and this is funded through our friends, and thinking, which ones to expand, think outside the box and really rebrand it museums and more, and have more outdoor excursions and not just traditional art museums. Because again, thinking back to the men's group and idea of, oh, I'm not a reader, there might be this idea of, oh, museums, that's for, a certain type of person. And the idea that you have state park, beach parking passes and state, nature preserves and all these other things. So we really want to kind of potentially we might want to rebrand that and just really work in the things that it's a lot. The library's more than you think. Our website usage is is the main site is high, but it's, very hard to use. And part of our capital request for the next few years is a plan to do a website redesign. So I think more and more data is kind of going to that it's harder to find things. But the events calendar and the homepage and the museum pass page are the ones that most people frequent. Patron usage, we have 43% of total card holders were active card holders in the last year. So we've definitely had a reduced library usage, but it corresponds pretty easily with the pandemic. But new card issuance, so the new cards we've done have kind of gone up and down over the past 2 years, especially with online cards. But I think over the 3-year average, there's been a 6% annual growth. And interestingly, Minuteman Library Network as a whole is doing strategy planning right now. And I was reviewing their findings, and across the board for Minuteman libraries, for each town that's population and library card holders, it's around 50%. So we're not that off from every other town in terms of, in general, not just from the pandemic. To see that, I saw that number today, and then reviewing our numbers, we're a little less than what we were before, 43%, but it's not just us. It's usually across the board. And circulation trends have been down across the state as we've seen this as well. Books are the highest, books on CD, and CDs are the lowest. And precincts with the most active card holders are those closest to the library, but the precinct with the highest number of library card holders is not the one that the main library is located in. So that's interesting. The other thing to note is the Wednesdays seem to be the busiest days of the week. Early morning and late afternoons are the busiest times of day. I would say the library sees consistently low usage in the evenings. I think thinking upon that, if you think back to when people met in person for not just programs, but for meetings, there was a lot more people in the building. So it's interesting to see is how many local groups will continue to be virtual, maybe potentially, and how that will affect it. Because we used to, if it wasn't a library program, there was always some group, whether it was a town meeting at the library in the evenings. Children's is usually very busy on the weekends as well. And then programming hasn't totally rebounded since pre-pandemic, but children's and adults, children's is up 41% of program attendance. And we saw that when we went to virtual back in February because of Omicron, we had people doing virtual, but the minute we went to in-person story times again, it went back up. People with young children really do want to be at a program, and I understand why, especially with developmentally. So that was interesting to see. And I do think hopefully that our programs will go back to pre-pandemic in terms of attendance. So that's, I know I keep go on, and I know it's 7:55. So there's a lot more to go through, and we will be. This is just to show already in the conversation when you're reviewing this stuff, you start to see what initiatives can kind of bubble out of that very easily. So when we send out our, initiatives and goals for your feedback, we want you to hopefully see the direct link from actual, words from the community and the data that we've collected. So nothing should be a surprise, but of course we look forward to having your feedback on kind of because there's so many directions we could go in. So we have to kind of more than anything, it's going to be hard to kind of finalize which few we can actually do in the next 5 years, but knowing that we have probably years worth of data here for potential areas to either improve and pivot. And as one staff member mentioned, we had a staff meeting and we kind of went around, everyone shared what they learned and what they most valued. And one staff member said, I've worked in 3 or 4 other libraries in my career, and I have to say, we visited other libraries and they have very cool things and amazing, but there's something really special and unique about Westwood, whether it's the physical space, as someone said, being light and airy and welcoming, and this lightness among the staff, where some libraries are very academic feeling and very rigid, and we have this kind of warmth among us and flexibility. And so to see that validated in what people, said in the comments were very lovely things. So all in all, my point is to the board is that I think we're a really great library, and I think we can be outstanding with some of the initiatives that we can choose just to bring us to that next level. So and I thank you all for your support over the years, because we wouldn't even have all this positive, things to review without your ongoing support long before I was here. So those are some of my things.
Hi, so thank you, Lizzie. So do you want to take down your page or, okay. Thank
I
you.
can see you all now.
Yes. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
No, I just think it's very informative and we should all be going through it. And I look forward to this process evolving over the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Thank you, Paul.
Trustee Persons?
Yeah, thank you, Lizzie and Cece and everyone else for the incredible amount of work that's been done to get us to this place. I found it really interesting to see the things that were validated that we knew, but as well as, like you said, the things that, oh, wow, well, that's interesting. It kind of stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's not what we thought.
Right.
And those were really, really interesting. And to see kind of, okay, now what will we do? How will we pivot, or what will we do? But there's so much there. And I just take exception to one thing you said. I think Westwood is already an outstanding library. And I think you're going to be fine tuning it to more outstanding.
There you go. That's
So,
better.
That's all there is. But thank you so much for all this hard work.
Thank you. Anyone else? No, nothing else to add in regards to the strategic plan. Mary?
Thanks, Maureen. And just to add, I was also struck by, although I know that these were findings and they were just some of the ideas that were bubbling up, but I was really impressed with the innovation that I saw. Clearly, there's a lot of creative thinking that's going on with the staff. Some of the ideas I thought, oh, wow, yeah. So kudos to the staff. I was really impressed by that.
Yes.
Thank you. They will love to hear that.
Please share that with them, Lizzie, on
I will.
On our behalf. That's great. I thought it was interesting, some of the things that I read, it just kind of, you have your own, or we each have our own view of the library and what it does for us, but to kind of see some of the comments and so forth, it puts you in someone else's head about what their view of it is, and then to think about how to respond to that, and others' needs. It's great. Okay, so if there are nothing else in that regard, you will be receiving more information and initiative planning before the next meeting, and have an opportunity to respond and ask questions and make comments. So we will look forward to that. And so our next meeting is the 13th of June, and then it's likely that we will have another meeting to, approve the strategic plan before the end of June. So we'll have to think about that. Okay, so the next thing on our agenda tonight is the Friends, and any update on the Friends. Maria, I know that you had prepared a little something. I think you might be muted, though.
Oh, am I muted?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
Not now, you aren't. You're good.
Okay, thank you. Just that I did go to the meeting in March, and it's very interesting. I'm brand new at it, but I think that Tina Bronquist would be very willing to talk to any trustee about their, the items that are on their agendas and in terms of, whatever people have questions about. But last week, I did go to the open meeting on May 5th, I believe. And Maureen, you were there,
Yes,
Jess
annual
Cole was
meeting.
there, and Lizzie was there. But a young man, 8th grader, Charles Goodman, read the first chapter of his book, The Moon Has Eyes. It was outstanding. It was just so proud of him and that he's a student at Westwood Thurston Middle School. He was very, very accomplished young man, and it was delightful to be there. And also quickly that Amy Rands and Sue Becker were voted back on the board. They are welcoming books now for the fall book sale. Can you add on to that, Maureen? Was there anything else? There was
I really
something
think
about-
you covered everything, and the speaker, Lizzie can attest to that as well. He was
Yeah.
remarkable young kid and just about to be published probably. So,
I
you know,
mean, very accomplished. He learned the violin at 4 and and writes screenplays and wrote this whole novel and made me think about all the things I have not yet accomplished in my life.
right,
But he
think
was
back to what you
really
were doing
great.
in, yeah, think back to what you were doing in 8th grade, right?
Right.
That was,
It
it
was
was
great.
nice to see. So
It was
thank
well
you.
attended too.
It was
don't-
well attended,
Well
yeah.
attended.
And not
Variety
just
of
by adults, what was really touching was that there were other
Oh.
kids his age who came,
So nice.
to support him as speaking. And a couple of them asked questions after he did his reading, and that was really, really nice. So,
Intergenerational.
yes, okay. And then, again, as Maria said, they're accepting books now for anticipating a book sale in the fall at some point, but no details on that yet. Thank you, Maria. And then next is the 21st Century Fund update.
Sure.
Trustee Masi-Phelps?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, the 21st Century Fund did have its quarterly meeting in April. A few of the highlights from that. One thing that we talked about that Lizzie brought forward as a potential idea for Westwood Day was for the fund to print up some reusable bags, maybe with a picture of the main library on one side and Wentworth Hall, the Islington branch on the other side. So we talked about potentially using that, maybe doing a bit of a fundraiser to recoup some of the cost, but maybe also giving away on special occasions or something like that. So Lizzie's going to be investigating that. We thought that would be, really nice thing, increase the profile of both facilities. And get the fund's name out there as well. Let's see. But as you've probably been seeing in the news, investments have been a bit of a roller coaster. There's been a lot of market volatility. But the fund is blessed with two local gentlemen, Torsten Becker and Brian Mulvey, who manage the fund for us very, very conservatively. And the portfolio has been very, very resilient in this environment. So very, very limited in terms of impact to the portfolio. So we're very grateful to them for that. As was mentioned, I think earlier, the fund, Mary Beth and I did meet, and Lizzie did meet with a consultant that works with Friends of the Library and foundations like ours, as was reported in the minutes of our last meeting. So we did have that meeting and talk with the fund about getting some informal conversations going with the Friends. So to Maria's point earlier, that would be good to get some conversations going. We're really looking forward to talking with the Friends about some of our different, the goals that the various organizations have, see where there are commonalities and where we could work together. And Mary Beth or Paul, if there's anything significant I've left off for the 21st Century Fund, please chime in.
I think that's all.
Okay.
Believe you hit the highlights.
Okay, thank you very much. The next thing we would like to do is approval of our acceptances and expenditures for, as you received, listed May 9th, 2022.
Move to accept the expenditures as
Okay,
detailed in the report of May 9, 2022.
thank you, trustee Fitzgerald, seconded by trustee Ryan. And we'll take a vote. Trustee Persons, did you have
Aye.
a question? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, sorry, I was just voting.
Oh, aye. Trustee Ryan,
Aye.
trustee Fitzgerald,
Aye.
trustee Donahue,
Aye.
trustee Masi-Phelps,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So I understand I have to come up and find a yellow folder, right?
Amos.
Okay,
I was
Well-
just gonna say, Paul, you're gonna miss your yellow folder. Yes,
okay,
you know what to look for.
It's at the front desk, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
thank you. Under new business, does anyone have anything that they'd like to mention?
I do, actually.
Okay,
I happened to be talking to someone from Schenectady, New York, and he said to me, you should bring this up. They have 4 docking stations for electric cars at their library. And I thought, and he said, eventually people will have to pay for them. He said it would be a great idea for a fundraiser. I don't know if it's the planning board, the finance board, or the library trustees, but I just thought it was interesting that they were there. You know,
yes, yeah,
good location, and I don't know if that could be a fundraiser for the library for either the 21st Century Fund or the Friends or a combination. But
Yeah.
I thought it was a great idea, given that at town meeting, they were talking about ways to preserve energy. So
Mm.
I just thought I'd bring it up. I don't know if I brought it up in the right place.
well, that is interesting.
But
Mary, I'm sorry, trustee Masi-Phelps?
Yeah, thanks. And Maria mentioning fundraising jogged something in my memory when I was reading the findings, and I saw that there were some questions that we were getting. Some of the, I think the patrons or the members of the focus groups were asking about fines and kind of how things work at the library. And it reminded me when I visited a number of libraries in New York City back in March about the trend to eliminate fines. And there's a question for Lizzie about whether that's something that has come up in the planning process at all.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Mary, because I think I almost wanted to include a question about that in the survey, but realized that we should have a discussion of it first.
Yeah.
Because so for Minuteman Library specifically, I think we are in the minority that still, right now, our fines are still paused as part of a protocol we put in place for coming back from the pandemic. So people are still being charged if if an item is billed, but late fees are not being charged currently. That's going to expire, I think, at the end of the summer. So, but more and more libraries in Minuteman have gone to fine free through their trustee boards. So I think it's interesting to see, that first, some people don't realize that the fines don't go directly back to the library. They go back to the general fund. But some people are like, oh no, here it goes right back to buy the book. But there's done all these studies and statistics that it doesn't really increase people's returning of
Right.
items. So, if anything, it's just another barrier to access. And I've heard over the years in the children's department, families saying, I have, you have 4 kids and they each take out, piles of picture books. And I've seen parents be like, oh, no, don't take that out as many, because they're worried about, okay, 10 cents a book and I'm 2 days late. So even over that, anecdotally, it's something that I would love to bring up to the board and, investigate and bring you some feedback and research on that, especially as we've had so many other local libraries in our network kind of embark on this, and to see, the goodwill as well for the community, especially coming out of this.
Yeah.
And of course, there's caveats, with the expanded library of things. There are some libraries that have fine for, with an asterisk of depending on the item. But it's because I noted that too, where there's all this talk of, rules and regulations and I'm just not going to engage because I don't know how it works, type of a thing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
I imagine we'd have to get the town's input.
I wanted to propose, earlier in the meeting, Lizzie highlighted 2 staff members who've given a lot of years of service to the library, and I would request that Lizzie prepare a thank you letter to staffers, and that you might sign, Madam Chair, on behalf of the board. of trustees.
Okay. Okay, I'll work with you on that, Lizzie, okay?
Great, thank you, Maureen.
Will they, Lizzie, will they get their typical book or, you know?
Yes,
okay.
yeah, unfortunately, we usually do it at the staff meeting, but they both work different jobs, so we've had to, I sent out an email all, and they were able to gift it their next shift, but yeah, so I think a letter from the trustees would go a long way of feeling appreciated
Okay.
as well.
Sounds good. All right, anybody else have anything else under new business? I had one thing, I just thought in terms of the reorganization, whether we should just talk about whether other trustees want to continue some of the things they've been doing in terms of liaisons with the Friends and 21st Century. I just, thought, Maria, would you like to continue as a liaison with the Friends?
I would, if it's acceptable to everyone else, I would like that.
I don't think it's something that we have, it's just, can be sort of a discussion. And don't want to assume, but I'm wondering if Mary Beth and Paul, would you like to continue with the fund? What do you think?
Well, we're officers of the corporation, so I think we have to until at least then.
Okay,
So-
that's
Yeah.
fine. I just wasn't, last year we didn't
Yeah,
really,
that's a,
Yeah.
and go ahead.
sorry, yeah, I was gonna say, that is a good, thank you for asking about that, Maureen, and that's a reminder to me that I think I need to get that on the agenda for our next fund meeting, which I think is supposed to be before the end of June, to talk about continuation of that. I do think it would be good at some point to get some new blood onto the fund. So, don't want to make it look like I'm I would certainly be, not at all averse if someone else wanted to take a turn on the fund. That's something we can talk about, if anyone wants to reach out to me, learn more about what it's like on the fund, certainly
Right.
happy to have that conversation.
I really-
Mhm.
Go ahead, Mary.
Yep, yeah, I'm happy to have that conversation. So the fund does usually do appoints the officer, membership on the board of the fund, and I'm not
Mhm.
getting the exact terminology correct, I think is done at this
Okay.
time of year. And then the actual offices within the fund, chair, chair, clerk, and treasurer happen in the fall. It's kind of a funny timing.
Yeah.
But that's traditionally when it's done per the bylaws, but changes could be made by the fund at any time. So that's
And in part, I was thinking it was worth bringing up tonight also for the benefit of our new trustee.
right. Yes.
That-
Nancy.
Nancy might
Yeah.
kind of know what that's all about.
Right.
Mary Beth, sorry.
I just have one other item. I don't know if Nancy has seen this or received one of these, the trustee pocket guide. Actually, this is the newest version, and there were like 5 or 6 of them in the mail in the library, in the mailbox.
Yeah,
So if they're still there,
yeah, they're still there.
they're still there.
Yeah.
Nancy, next time you're in the library, just ask someone at the circulation desk to look in the mailbox. Actually, they were in the 21st century
Yeah,
mailbox.
because I think I added a thing for 21st century / trustees, because trustees didn't
Oh.
have their own mailbox. So I think I
Okay.
made it
Okay.
both. So
okay.
yeah. So yeah, you can ask them.
You could get one of these. It's actually very helpful. I mean, it's very succinct.
Thank
It's-
you.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Mary Beth, because you got them for us, and I was grateful for it.
Sure. Me too. Thank you, Mary Beth. And I don't know if Nancy, you would like to think about participating with the Friends or, something like that. I have been doing it with Maria. It's, I'm happy to keep doing that. But if there's an interest and you'd like to do something like that too, or you want to just, get your feet wet and see how things are going, that's fine too. There's always, as Mary said, if the fund is doing some of that organizing in the fall, there's always that opportunity in the fall. They won't have another meeting until the fall, the Friends anyway.
Friends, yeah.
Nothing that has to be decided tonight. I just thought I would make you aware of some of the things that we do. Okay,
I'd be happy to work with Maria and the friends.
okay. Sounds good. All right, well, we'll be well represented in both of those areas. Okay, that being said, unless there's any participation from the public, we could entertain that. I can't see here whether we do
You
have
have,
anybody.
It's Karen Kagan is a staff person. She's here. You can just see.
Did she have any, Karen, any questions or comments?
Hearing
You're
them.
on mute, Karen.
Okay. And I know that Cece was on, Lizzie, before, and I believe she's gone now, so please
Yes.
thank her for attending
I
tonight.
will.
Okay, and that being said,
To adjourn?
yes, and thank you. Are you making that motion? Thank you. I missed the
I'm
first
making-
word. Yep,
When's our next meeting?
and next meeting is June 13th.
Okay.
And in regard to that, would we want to continue to meet virtually in June or move to in person? I believe that, go ahead.
I think
Trustee
the
Fitzgerald.
governor's order runs through July, but why don't we play that by ear and see how, I know there's been a spike lately, so we might
Yes.
just hold off.
Okay,
As
That's
we get
fine.
closer, you can always make it in, when we post it, you could always make it an in-person meeting.
how
That would be
people
my
are feeling.
suggestion.
Yep.
It's very tricky right now.
It is, yes, yeah.
Madam Chair, I will not be able to attend that June meeting.
Well,
So,
we will miss you.
sorry about that.
Thank
I
you
have
for letting us
a,
know.
I have a commitment that cannot be changed that night, so.
That's okay, thank you. Okay, and you made a motion to adjourn?
I did,
Trustee
Madam Chair.
Fitzgerald? We have a second? Did someone second? Trustee Persons, thank you. So it being 8:18, this is a longer one for us. We will adjourn until we see you on June 13th. Thank you. Enjoy your month. The spring weather is coming.
I think you need to- I
Cold.
think you need to take a quick roll call.
We need to take a quick
Oh, you-
vote on.
Okay, I've forgotten that we do that at the end. Thank you.
We'll be really good at it now.
Yes, well, the chair says aye. Trustee Masi-Phelps,
Aye.
trustee Ryan,
Aye.
trustee Persons,
Aye.
trustee Donahue,
Aye.
and trustee Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lizzie.